We turn now to a disturbing story out of Louisiana.
Now, another very controversial death of an African-American man in police custody.
He was a young man, and he was stopped by the police. He ends up dead.
How does that happen?
Apparently he had a gun on him, and then he shot himself in the back.
I said, that's a lie. I know better than that.
And what happened next is very unclear. Much of this story is unclear.
I remember him saying, I can't go to jail, and then he said, I'm going.
That don't even sound like nothing that he would even say.
When they said my son had committed suicide, I was livid.
Something is wrong with this picture. We need help.
The family definitely do not accept the coroner's report.
I could see Lil Big left eye was turned inward. He had to be hit so hard that it knocked his eye inward.
Looked like he had been hit with the butt of a rifle.
You would have to ask yourself, how is that humanly possible?
Victor White's unbelievable Houdini handcuff suicide.
We are committed that we get to the truth. What happened to Victor White III?
I didn't kill Victor White, nor did my deputy.
This whole case is not making sense.
There's too many unanswered questions here.
Your parameters for what is normal start to change.
Who's in charge? Who's gonna help these people?
They wouldn't let me see my son. And I asked him again, I said, man, what happened to my son? What happened to my son? He told me I can't tell.
He didn't kill himself. He was killed.
You guys will be amazed at what's going on here in Louisiana.
New Iberia's whole history is based on sugar. Iberia Parish is the largest sugar-producing state in Louisiana, and Louisiana produces a lot of sugar. That industry shaped a lot of what the town is and a lot of what it's been. You have people who live in almost $1 million homes on the Bayou Teche in a walled, gated community, and with a wrist rocket, you could shoot to an area where people are living in poverty with holes in their roofs. You do have a very strong sense of segregation between the two.
The tracks was a racial divide. The blacks were on one side and the whites were on the other side. You have projects on this side of the tracks. It's nothing like
Greetings and welcome to another powerful
edition
edition of the Community Defender Talk Show, one powerful hour of truth in a day of falsehood. I'm your host, Brother Daryl Muhammad, and we hope that you enjoy our program on tonight. And of course, tonight's topic is going to be a sick love for the oppressor. And please forgive us for those 2 O's instead of 1. But sometimes we have to add emphasis. But the bottom line of it is that we as a people have a sick love for our oppressor. And we're going to talk about that sick love and its origin. And we're going to talk about some of the events that have recently occurred which bear witness to this sick love that we as a people must get rid of. Now, I want to call our attention, if I can, and I'm just your brother Daryl Muhammad, out of Mosque number 65 in Baton Rouge, but I just want to call your attention. And, of course, this book here, Message to the Black Man, is something that should be in every black home because it is so packed with information, so packed with the plan of God that everybody should actually have this book and really be studying it. But here's the thing I want to say. We are all, and the media has all been talking about Trump and what Trump did in asking somebody to investigate Biden and his son. Now, as crazy as that is in terms of the evil that is done by the presidency of the United States. Normally, they're talking to hitmen ordering people killed, ordering drone strikes, ordering covert operations that are killing men, women, and children every day. So what we know is that Donald Trump tried to get his opponent wrapped up in an investigation and tried to get other nations to interfere in the election to help his chances of winning, which is wicked. But I just want to lay this out there. It's not as wicked as what happens each and every day in the presidency of the United States, where people are being ordered killed, stuff is being ordered to be blown up. The wickedness of the presidency, we've only seen just a glimpse of the wickedness that occurs every day in the White House. Understand that that office is an office where Satan himself has executed his will for a couple of centuries now. So we just have to stay tuned, see how that works. But understand this, that because Mr. Trump is so crazy, so racist, so foul-mouthed, so off the chain, so unintelligent, so stupid, that's the reason that he has a very, very good chance of winning. And because he's so stupid and so racist, he will definitely win the state of Louisiana in the next election, because he is just that stupid. His stupidity actually works in his favor in many quarters, so just understand that. Now, getting back to our topic, our sick love for our oppressor. Now, let me say this. Recently, we had a trial where Amber Geiger shot and killed Botham Jean, who was in his apartment relaxing, eating ice cream, some say cereal. But the bottom line of it is that he was in his own apartment relaxing. And in the course of his relaxing, a white police officer burst in, shot him twice, and killed him. Now, she says that she thought she was in the wrong apartment. All of those things are questionable. It seems as though she's lying. There are a lot of facts which kind of go against her story. But she expected to sit on the witness stand and cry and act, and I don't know. And she expected to gain the sympathy of the jury such that she wouldn't have to get convicted. So whenever a white woman gets on a stand and cries, it seems as though they get the sympathy of everybody. But the jury found her guilty of the highest charge of murder, and she was looking at between 5 and 99 years. She ended up getting only 10 years, okay, in the state of Texas. Now, I want y'all to follow me. She got 10 years for killing a person. Do you know there are people who have been in jail for the past 30 years for weed? And some of them have 5 or 6 more years to do on 100 pounds of weed where nobody died? Do you know a man was released in Alabama and he had done 36 years for stealing $50 out of a register in Alabama, and he was just released, but he was given life in prison, but he was resentenced a few months ago and has been released after 36 years for $50, a black man. So the idea that a white woman would get 10 years and then someone else shot a police dog that was trying to bite them, shot him and killed him, and they received 46 years in prison for a dog. But for a human being with great potential, this white woman only got 10 years. Well, that's typical. And as I posted on social media, I said, you know, you can fight in all of America's wars, but as a black man, you cannot get justice in any of her courts. You can fight in all of her wars, but you cannot get justice in any of America's courts. So as we looked at this thing, and as the sentencing phase unfolded, certain things came out. And if you know me, those are people who know me, and I have some people in the city of Lafayette who work here, who live here, several people that I know who I've been close to, who I've known for, 30 years, who live right here in Lafayette. And if they would tell you that I'm a very proud black man, not arrogant, but very proud of being who I am, a black man. And they will tell you that I am an advocate for my people. Anybody that knows me, if you knew me when I was 15, you already knew that I was down with my people then, and I'm down with my people now, all the way at age 52. Okay? We got 6 grown children, 4 grandchildren, hopefully more grandchildren on the way. Now here's the thing. For the first time in maybe 30 years, I, as a black man, felt for the first time a sense of shame. And it wasn't because of my skin. It wasn't because of the condition of our people that's been forced upon us by white America. It wasn't something that they said crazy about black people in the news, but it was how we acted in the wake of the conviction and the sentencing of that very wicked woman named Amber Geiger. Now, let's go ahead and look at this thing. Look at how this woman was treated. Now, we have 3 photos, and I thank the director for getting these photos. We're going to deal with them. The victim's brother hugged the woman. He said mentioned something about God and forgiveness. He said, I want the best for you. He asked to hug her. Okay? Now, I'm not going to deal with him too much because he's only 18. And his father backed him up in that foolishness. So we're going to chalk what he did up, that slave move that he did. We're going to chalk it up to the fact that he was raised by somebody who was in mental slavery. Because his father said he wanted to be friends with her. Weakness from top to bottom. Intolerable weakness. Okay? And I got on the phone and called my relatives. I said, if I'm shot, don't you hug the people who shot me. Now, I know that the Muslims at mosque number 65, the Muslims at mosque number 45, the Muslims at mosque number 46, I know they're not going to hug nobody. But I had to call some of my family members and say, do not go out like a sucker and spit on my memory like that. Because that was really a travesty, what that dude did for the brother, for him to do what he did. But we understand he's 18 years old. He was raised by somebody who obviously has Tom tendencies, and we're going to chalk it up to that and chalk it up to the false ideology where they tell us we have to love our enemies and they tell us we have to turn the other cheek. Now, in this book, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that turn the other cheek and love your enemy was a lie that the enemy put into the Bible and told you that Jesus said it. Okay? Now, he told you that Jesus said it, but Jesus never said anything like that. And now we're finding that love your enemy and turn the other cheek was not in the oldest manuscripts. So what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in a book published in 1965, we're finding out in 2017, 2018, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is correct, that it was something put in there and they told you that Jesus said it. And we believe we have to love somebody who's an enemy of ours in order to get to heaven. Now, the 18-year-old, we can give him a pass. He's only 18. He has a lot to learn. We understand he was grieving. We will accept that. Now let's get to the judge, Tammy Kemp, who, by the way, that judge has the same last name as the former Secretary of State of the state of Georgia, who threw out all those black votes before he ran for governor and won by throwing out all of those black votes and throwing away votes that were cast. Both of them have the same last name. One white man, one black woman with the same last name. That's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, get rid of the white man's name. They had the same name, but it appears that they got the same mind. Not just the same name, but the same thinking. Because this same judge, who has given out decades of time to black men, who didn't murder anybody, never stepped off of the bench to hug the black man who was going away for decades. But for this white woman, for this white police officer who had killed her brother, this Thomasina sister came off the bench in tears, who she couldn't stand to see Massa suffer. So she tried her best to comfort a murderer, a convicted killer. When does that happen? That a judge comes down off the bench to hug a convicted murderer who's just been convicted in their courtroom. Unprecedented. But when it comes to a young white woman, we see them as more than us. Now, I want to mention this to you, because some people are trying to give this bailiff sister a pass. They say she was really searching for sharp objects or something like that. But in reality, she was playing in the white woman's hair, caressing the white woman, while the white woman trying to make her as comfortable as possible after she just killed a black man. And it shows you the sick love that we have for our oppressor. So when I saw this spectacle, I almost went into a depression, because I was so sick, man, that we would behave in this manner in 2019. The one time in probably 50 or 60 years that a police officer was convicted of the charge that they should have been convicted of, there we go, acting like a bunch of coons in the middle of the courtroom, hugging and consoling the murderer. It's amazing. It's amazing. And, you know, if you've been watching social media, and I can tell you, I have some very, very conscious Facebook friends. And a couple of my friends went and they found some footage of verdicts being read against black people who had killed somebody who was, you know, a black family who had lost someone, and the person had been convicted. And there were no hugs. One guy jumped across the table in an effort to grab the convicted murderer by the neck. It was no hugging. But all of a sudden, when a white person kills our family member, they need to be forgiven, and it needs to be some sort of a hug situation. Brother and sister, that's straight slavery. That way of thinking keeps us enslaved. Jesus does not want us to be fools. This is disgraceful. For you to hug the person that just killed your brother. That is absolutely insane. And but we're gonna get let's go ahead and take this call. Go ahead, caller. You're on there with the community defender.
Yeah, how you doing, Brother Daryl?
I'm doing pretty well. Is he coming in pretty good, Brother Director? Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, man. when I seen it, I couldn't believe my eyes, I couldn't believe my ears, I couldn't believe anything. I was just totally shocked. And this white woman here, they give her, sentence her to 10 years. You know she go through 5. Then when she comes out, you know, they gonna be feeling sorry for her. Then they gonna give her, like, you know, one of them GoFundMe pages and stuff like that, and then she gonna wind up becoming, you know, a millionaire or something.
I believe what I heard, Brother Caller, is that she already has raised over $1 million. The white community has come out in support of anybody that kills a black person. They become a millionaire almost instantly. You know, Darren Wilson, I believe, the guy who killed Michael Brown, raised about $4 million. Dylan Roof raised millions of dollars, were raised on his behalf online. So it's a situation where white folk back up their people. No matter what they do to us, they back up their people, and they put their money where their mouth is. And this is not a racist statement, because I'm not against anybody because of your hue. We're looking at actions. We're looking at actions, and that's what happens. Is that you know? But now, if I did something, or a black cop in the defense of our people were in prison for something, they weren't able to raise money from us. Those cops who in Marksville, they weren't able to raise money from white folk or us. And one of them is doing 40 years for a crime that really he didn't commit. And the other one, I think, had to cop a plea. And the police did not stand. The international, the union did not back them because it was a white boy who was 6 years old that got shot.
This is unbelievable stuff.
And look, it shows you the hopelessness of waiting on the system to change. We have been waiting on the system to change for 100 years. And we have lost the past 3 generations of our young men while we were waiting. The system continued to kill and destroy the futures of our people while we were waiting on the system to get better. It got worse.
And that's why you have to, you know, that's why you have to pay attention, you know, to what this man's behind you, his picture, photo behind you saying, you know, and read his book, and, you know, and take it to heart, you know. And let me tell you something else, man. One of the witnesses that testified against this cop, he was murdered, I believe, either if not today, yesterday he was murdered.
Yeah, yesterday or day before yesterday he was in fact murdered. And matter of fact, yeah, we got a graphic of him right there. Handsome young man with a promising future, and he was willing to come forward and do the right thing. And he was murdered. Now, if you don't think that was retribution, and I think that's him and a baby, his baby. So there you have another baby growing up without a father. Now, if you don't see the connection, and I'm telling this to all the viewers, now we're being told, it's in the media, that she's not going to apologize. You know, she cried on the witness stand, but now they're about to appeal to get the whole conviction thrown out. If the conviction gets thrown out, then they're going to be minus the key witness. Do you hear what I'm saying? The key witness is not going to be there to testify because he's been whacked. All they said they saw was a gray car leaving, speeding away from the scene. We don't even have a make and model. That looks like a police hit job, if you ask me. I don't know for sure because I wasn't there, but I'm just saying what it looks like. The main witness who gave testimony which contradicted the lies that she told is the person who is now immediately dead right after the trial, and now her legal team is about to appeal, and then if she gets another trial, they may move the venue to another place. Maybe they move it to Waxahachie or somewhere, Texas, which is a very, very white area, and you get a bunch of conservatives on the jury who can see that, who believe that police can do no wrong, and before you know it, you got an acquittal, and before you know it, she's working on the Houston Police Department. You never know, because if she's acquitted, she can essentially be hired by another police department and she can kill again. And the other thing is that 9 cases, because of her character, 9 drug cases that she was over or she had an arrest in were thrown out. And we're still trying to find out why those cases were thrown out, but it had something to do with her lack of integrity. The other thing I want to mention to you and to the viewers is that she was sexting, talking about a what they call now, what the young people call it, a booty call.
Oh,
yeah. So she was doing that before she shot him, while he was dying, and after her married partner, she was still trying to get some sex.
Well, look,
after the dead body.
I'm gonna hang up. I want to hear this. I'm gonna hang up, bro. I want to hear this.
Yeah. It's deep, bro. It's deep. But she was still trying to get some sex, and while they were there, they allowed her to go in and delete texts and to delete stuff off of her social media. One thing she said was, I always dress in black because I'm already dressed for your funeral. Yeah. She had very violent Facebook posts about killing people, and she admitted to one of her social media friends that she was racist. Her social media friend said, I think I'm a little racist. She said, it's no problem, I'm the same way. So it's a situation where this information got to the jury in the penalty phase. But one of the blacks on the jury said that they asked for 28 years, and I just couldn't give that woman 28 years. That's one of us. So when I said I felt a sense of shame for the first time in maybe 30 years, it was because when we finally had chance to do something close to justice, at the end, we had a sick love that caused us to punk out on what we needed to be able to do. In the end, we could not stomach hurting a white person, but we hurt one another every day. We'll put a gun to our own brother's head, pull the trigger without thinking about it. But we couldn't stand for this white woman to do 28 years, which is what the prosecution asked for. And so when you got black jurors who come from the community, who can't seem to do the right thing, it's a sad day for black America. And it tells you how deep the level of mental death is within our people. And like I told my own mother on the way over here, I said, you cannot put those actions of Brant Jean on Jesus. Jesus is not for us being a bunch of sycophantic slaves kowtowing to the enemy. And forgiveness is a concept that is a colorless concept. It doesn't have a color on it. Doesn't have a hue. But forgiveness only applies to white people. We feel like Jesus, the Lord God, wants us to forgive them, but we never, ever, ever. Some of us are still mad at our Aunt Sally because she didn't give us no potato salad and she didn't speak to us at the family reunion back in 1992, and we still ain't gonna speak to Aunt Sally. But when a person kills your brother, you want to give them a hug. Now that's deep right there. Go ahead, Carl. You're on there with the community defender.
Good show, Brother Daryl. Good analysis of what you're talking about. I don't know where to start. We could use the whole analysis that Master was wrong with as well. Master Week 6. Listen to this, Brother Daryl. In your analyzing of the situation, also cut across a whole bunch of different ideological belief system in our community. So I'm not necessarily want to condemn our people, but I think that's all the hundreds of years of brainwashing that we operate in that manner. And we just got to keep on fighting to try to change that. But we do have some people who are what you call collaborators in our drive for justice. For example, here in the Lafayette, in the Louisiana area, I told you, I recanted the story about the inviting of United States Representative Clay Higgins to speak at the Louisiana Conference in Baton Rouge. And we got some good brothers in in the hell would the state chapter, the NAACP, invite Clay Higgins to speak when we got great speakers like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? We got Brother Daryl Muhammad in Baton Rouge. All the people that you could invite to speak at your event, you would invite a known racist, because this is what we suffer from, some type of mental illness in our community, Brother Daryl, and we got to be able to call it out. Some of us took a lot of flack for pointing that out about Clay Higgins, but the whole point is the brothers and sisters who want to defend bringing Clay Higgins to the NAACP, they're part of the problem. One of the things they could address, I made a mistake. We made a mistake of having him there, but I'm just saying, Brother Darren, we get brought out because we're cowards, or we brought up because we need the monetary gain of promoting an individual like Clay Higgins. So I want to use that analysis to compare it to what's going on in Dallas. It's similar in another way because it kills the spirit. And you might could kill a human being, but when you kill a spirit, we got so many people saying they are putting their money in their pocket and not joining the Louisiana NAACP because of this. And I stand by it, Brother Darryl. I stand by it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother. The bottom line of it is that, we a lot of times there's an economic incentive, but to have a salary paid, to have an economic incentive, and you're not effective in your mission because you are boxed in, because they will pull the money away if you get out of the box. But unfortunately, liberation lies always outside of your comfort zone. Success is always outside of your comfort zone. And so our leaders always do what is comfortable to them and never go out on a limb, which is where the fruit is. So we are constantly in this rut of then later on bowing down to the same enemy that we were supposed to be fighting against their policies. And it's one of those unfortunate things, but the bottom line of it is, nonetheless, people continue to do it. And the NAACP, at least at the national level, is corporate sponsored. And because they're corporate sponsored, a lot of times they are corporate controlled, because whoever controls the money controls the agenda. And the agenda is never forceful enough, never strong enough to do the advancement, you understand, of the colored people, or what they call the colored people. It's never strong enough to do what the organization intends to do, which is to get the establishment of the rights of our people. But you can't do that in a timid way, because the society takes a hard line with black people. It doesn't take a soft line. Society is not moderate where it comes to black people. You see what I'm saying? So the young man in New Iberia who they said committed suicide, they took a hard line with him. The coroner lied. Everybody lined up on a hard line against an innocent young man. And we are soft going up against something hard. And cotton is not going to be able to bust through steel. There it is. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air with the Community Defender.
Guess who coming to get you down tomorrow? Trump Jr. Guess who coming Friday? Big man Trump.
It is now when people eat too many boudin balls and hog cracklings, the plaque gets inside of the brain and interferes with the thinking. And because you can't do any thoughtful analysis, there you go. But I understand that it's the food, too much boudin, too many cracklings, and of course the alcohol and tobacco doesn't help either. So we just need to live cleaner lives. But the thing we got to do, and thank you, brother director. Now, if y'all remember, some of y'all are old enough to remember Good Times. And on Good Times, one of the wonderful episodes they dealt with was the white image, the false ideology of a white Christ, and the imagery of Caucasian divinity, that we have to work to fight against that image even in our own minds. The struggle against white supremacy didn't end when I joined the Nation of Islam. I had to still struggle with the ideology of white supremacy and the lie of black inferiority in my own self. It's something that you do every day, right? So everybody who's raised up in the white man's education system, where he controls the curriculum, where he controls the media, we all are fighting against, we all are recovering whiteaholics, so to speak. And we are constantly recovering from the mental slavery that we were hit with, trying to break the chains of mental slavery. But one of the things that was dealt with on this was the concept of Jesus being a white man on good time. And that image of a Caucasian Christ works very hard against us and against our people. It works very hard against our mental state of being, because we view divinity as a white thing, and it's hard for us to see people in the proper light when we connect them to divinity. So one of the things that Brother Michael did on the show was he tried to remove, with Miss Florida, he tried to remove the white Jesus and replace it with a black one. And JJ went ahead and painted a black Jesus, and there was a whole discussion and dialogue about it, and they were able to show on the show that according to Scripture, Jesus was a black man. And that's just what it is. Jesus, the historical Jesus, that great prophet raised in Nazareth, was in fact a black man just like me. And Moses was also a black man just like me. And Abraham was also a black man just like me. All these people were black folks. So the idea that divinity is a white thing, that imagery is something we have to get out. And Catholicism has put it out there. The Protestants put it out there. When you go into white churches, God is white in white churches. You understand? Even though God is not actually white, that's how they paint it. And that's something that we all need to get out of, that imagery of Jesus being a white man. People will send me things on Facebook. They'll have the white man with long hair like you see there, and they'll have him walking up like he's walking up to your door with a robe on, and then it's like this little meme where you're looking outside of the door, and it's like, will you let him in? And this is black people, you understand, doing this, sending me these things, which I have to tell them, don't send me that, man, because Jesus is not white. I'm not going with that false imagery. And people say, well, color doesn't matter. Well, it must have mattered because they painted him a certain color and they refuse to acknowledge really in mass another color other than the white color that they put out there. And originally, as our brother, the doctor from Memphis, came and told us that it was based upon Michelangelo's homosexual cousin was the original model for the modern model that we know of today that they say is Jesus. So I just wanted to lay that out there. And it was actually the painting of a person who actually was homosexual. It's interesting that they would do something like that to Jesus, but nonetheless, this is what they've done. Now, what I wanted to mention also is that after Dylan Roof went into the church and shot those 9 black people, the media raised the issue, can you all forgive? Will there be, now this is what the media began to talk about. They never asked that question to anybody but black people. After white people get shot, or there's something that happens in a white area, the word forgiveness is never used. Only punishment, jail time, apprehension of the suspect, but never forgiveness. But when those 9 beautiful people were killed as they were in their Bible study / prayer meeting. Immediately, the media raised the issue of forgiveness, and one of the family members felt as though it was their religious obligation to come out and say that they forgive. Dylan Roof, on the other hand, has come out on record several times, and one of his quotes is, "I have never shed a tear for the people I killed that day. I have no regrets," end quote. But yet, black people in the family have said, "We forgive." You see what I'm saying? That's the problem. Forgiveness only applies to one race of people from the other race of people. We forgive them, but Officer Darren Wilson could not forgive Michael Brown for living. They couldn't forgive Eric Garner for selling cigarettes. They couldn't forgive Trayvon Martin for walking with some tea and some Skittles. We can't get forgiveness for living, but they can get forgiveness for killing. That's just unequal. Go ahead, call you on there with the Community Defender.
Yes, good evening, Brother Daryl, and like always, you always carry a beautiful message to the people. You know, I always, well, not always, but when I came to realize that Jesus Christ had to be a black man because they don't do nobody white the way they have done here.
Right.
You know?
Beating them and lynching them and stuff, that's right.
Yes, and, you know, we all been miseducated. You know, I always say, show me where the walk of Christ is into the book of basic instruction before leaving earth. And then if you could show me that, I know you understand. But if you can't show me that, I know you're not understanding what is really going on. Because a lot of these youngsters that's in office, that's running for office right now, they don't understand the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. And right here in Lafayette, Louisiana, we getting ready to go through a civil rights movement that they never seen before because they got a lot of youngsters in office that read about the civil rights movement but wasn't a part of the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Them not being a part of it, guess what? They don't know. All they know is what the dollar is bringing to their pocket, that the white folks is telling them, let me pay you to get out and do your people the wrong that they deserve. We don't deserve that, but they're giving the blacks enough dollars to support their agenda, not our agenda. Like I said, Brother Daryl, you always bring the truth, the light, and the way, regardless of what religion, race, creed, or color. You are the one to bring the message across. Thank you, Brother Daryl. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I just want to remind the viewing audience that I'm a student of the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I'm a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. They are the ones who have laid the base that myself, Sister Deborah, Brother Oscar, or any of our guests who have, or hosts who've been on, we stand on that foundation. And the thing is that my grandfather raised 7 children in the Jim Crow South, and everybody that wanted to go to school could go to school and get an education. And the kind of man that he was, and the kind of man that my grandparents, all of them were, I'm doing my best to not only represent my people, but to represent the people that I came from, and to represent the what I believe God wants for our people, which is for us to be free. Now, I wanted to read something from Message to the Black Man. And this is from page 45 of Message to the Black Man. Listen to these words. Will a free people accept slaves as their equal? The so-called Negroes must be truly civilized, and the right civilized man has not performed his duty until this is accomplished. However, the so-called Negro is free to receive his or her own if they just will not allow fear and ignorance to stand in the way. It has been seen from a little chance they have had to get a little education, they have shown and proved that they are the original people who are only asleep and in great need of the right civilized man who will perform his duty in awakening them. The so-called Negroes, now of course called African Americans, fear of being deprived food, clothing, and shelter, and also the usual smile of the white slave master's children prevents them from seeking the true knowledge of their own nation's civilization. They must drop the slave master's name and religion, which both they have and do not understand. This means nothing but slavery. Of course, some preachers and politicians who live off the ignorance of their people are opposed to the right civilization of our people. Now, when you talk about civilization, you talk about teaching refinement, you're talking about teaching the proper history and the proper way that we should interact one with the other. You're talking about teaching us the original ways of civilization that we knew before we were kidnapped and captured, brought over here to America. We have to be raised up from where we are today into what we call a living perpendicular, where we stand on our own 2 feet and become self-sufficient as a people. Now, when I looked at what happened, and I look at the choices that we make, and this judge, this sister, and I really, really want, and there's probably somebody in Lafayette, because there's so many people who are connected to so many others, because Lafayette is in my view, this whole Acadiana area, New Iberia included, is an area, Breaux Bridge, with some very powerful black people in it, who I believe will make a major contribution eventually to the uplift of our people. That's just what I believe. The spirit that I've always felt in this area, there's a heavy Tom spirit here. Don't get me wrong. There are some sellouts in the midst of everybody. But there are also some very revolutionary people in this area who love our people very much and who are working day and night to free our people's minds. And this is what I see more in this city than in most other cities where black people are, believe it or not. And I've been in New York, I've been in D.C., I've been in Houston, I've been in Dallas, but the spirit here is really ripe for a mental revolution if we would but tap into the source, unify, and let's move this thing forward. Let us not be disgraceful as what we see on this screen. Don't be that kind of a disgrace to insult all the activists. You know how many hundreds of activists worked, protested, pushed, called, did radio programs to get this trial and to get a decent verdict? And for those people to get on that stand and act like this with all the work that had been done. When that guy walked out, Brant Jones, to my recollection, he did not hug any of the activists, the protesters who were outside. He walked to his car, he waved to them, but he hugged the murderer. And to me, that's a problem. That's a major, major, major problem. Now, his life is not over. He's only 18. But that situation needs to be corrected by somebody, and somebody very soon. Go ahead, call you on the air of the Community Defender.
Yes, Brother Daryl, I'm sorry I have to call back. You know, right now, what you're talking about, a lot of people don't understand that we are in the 50-plus years of the civil rights movement, and something that we wasn't really into back into the days, because I'd heard a lot of people say, I sure hope they don't bring the civil rights movement here, but you can't get away from it right now. And a lot of these people are helping Mighty Whitey get back into the civil rights that we are so fought for, you understand me, and they just giving it back up because they don't realize what they're doing. Thank you again, Brother Daryl. Always appreciate you for listening and having the outlook and the concern that you have for this community. Thank you.
No doubt about it. And you know, we are all of the same flesh and blood. Whatever is good for you is good for me, and it's just about time that we as black people know and understand that. It is always easier for the enemy to pay a few people than to give everybody justice. To give everybody justice may cost billions of dollars. To give a few people, to pay a few people, might just cost a couple of million. And they add that up, and their accountants add it up, and they pick out the people that are willing to be bought. They buy them, and then they become the go-between between the racist masses and the liberation of the people. And this happens all the time. Right now, white people are using Candace Owens to advocate for them and to say don't worry about slavery and don't worry about what happened years ago. And right now, before a few years ago, they were using Sheriff Clark. They continue to use Clarence Thomas as one of their votes on the Supreme Court. There are always people that they use, and it's easier to, there you go. Ben Carson is another one. It's easy to plug a few people in, give them a decent salary and a title, and have them to work against the interests of the people than to pay what it's going to cost to give everybody justice. That's just what it is. It's a calculated expense. Go ahead and call you on there with the Community Defender.
A very timely program. I wanted to say that too. We have men and women in the state of Louisiana that are serving the life sentence, not because they actually killed someone, but because they were there at the time of the killing, or they knew something. They charged as accessory before the fact, accessory after the fact, and they are serving life sentences. It is so despicable to have that woman with all her racist comments and all her little pissy tears get out there like if she was sorry when she wasn't. Thank you so much, and there's never justice when it comes down to equality for our people.
Look, I'm gonna tell you, the woman cried those tears. She did her acting job, but she wasn't really all that good at it to me. But when you're a slave-minded person and you see Massa crying, it touches you as a slave. It touches you in a way where you become tenderhearted. But I bet you that judge, when a young black man cried in her courtroom about all the time he was about to get, I don't think that she got down off of the bench and hugged that young black man and said, look, I'm going to give you a break. I'm going to try to help you. I think she told that young black man, you did the crime, so go ahead and do the time. That's what we get. Right there in the 19th JDC, a man got almost 50 years for some nonviolent offenses. And when the judge read out his sentence, which was a black judge, he says, Your Honor, I can't do all this time. Not only did he not get a hug, but the judge laughed and said, just do as much of it as you can here, baby. I mean, this is how we get treated by black women as black men in courtroom, and it begs the question, what are we voting for? Because this sister was elected to office. The NAACP tells us to vote. The National Urban League tells us we got to vote. Everybody says get out the vote, but then when you vote and you see this kind of slavery, it makes you think, man, what did I vote for? When we voted for the first black mayor in Baton Rouge, who really tommed out on us, who did a flip on us, didn't want to develop North Baton Rouge at all, who stood on the side of the police whenever they killed a black person. We wonder, what did we vote for? Did we vote for somebody to sell us out all the time? We don't get anything for our vote. We get the same result, no matter whether it's a black person or a white person in office, we gonna get the same result. That is disheartening to a lot of young people who you say to vote. So you need to give them somebody of courage to vote for, rather than these Uncle Toms who are gonna always sell us out and always turn us out and really mess over us in the end. And that's what I've seen. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Again, this was an emotionally charged situation. We hope to see you on next time. I'm working on a guest by phone that I hope will be enlightening. And so may God continue to bless you and all of your families as we continue the resurrection process, the community defender being just one tool. God